Hello, Inman Tam, and I want to specifically not apologize for the subject matter to anybody who does not enjoy it. They are on their own. It's been a long time since I've watched your videos, but I see, yeah, you have unblocked me, and I did not know spring was here. This must be an early spring, or maybe you're doing, maybe there's some blocking amnesty program. I don't know. This filter is a passive aggressive uh, way to get back at you for blocking me because as everybody knows, I never forget that shit. I take it super serious. So yeah. First of all, I don't know what you're getting with the inaccurate senses. I am a skeptic. I think the senses are inaccurate, but it's an overreaction to say that they are just totally wrong or anything like that. I mean, and not that you're saying that, but you're sort of. Actually, I don't know why you're bringing this up. The point I need to make from the way you were talking about it is that I want to say it's not all an illusion, right? It's a mixture of illusion and reality, and even the illusion is reality in the way that dreams usually mean something about your waking life, you know? Uh, things are fed. You know, unicorns are made out of horses and horns that do happen in the real world. You know, fairies have kinds of wings that you see in the real world, and the fairies look like girls. So you know these things. Even fantasy comes from the real world. Ultimately, all comes from the real world. That's what a materialist really has to conclude. It all comes from the real world. Every bit of it, even all the fantasy, even the math and the it doesn't matter how abstract and a priori you think, it's like pure truth. No, it all just came from the world. It all started as a data set of color, smell, texture, and other senses, you know, hunger, right? Hunger, because the human could do an experiment, so called, you know, because we've been doing crude experiments forever. Science just formalized it, made it so the mind didn't play as many tricks on itself. There's a lot of tricks you can get into when you do testing and you have systematic bias. And, you know, science became a way of removing this systematic bias. So anyway, we have to sort the mess out. That's really the issue. Now, in terms of lousy vocabulary, I'm totally sure that I remember being on this side of this argument talking about some of the words that are just broken, basically. And so I also get this, and you know, but the thing I think is important to realize, you know, you talk a lot about doing real philosophy, um, you know, when you're arguing against the phantasmagorical type of thinker. But you know, philosophers make words up in this situation. This is what they're here to do, to make new correct words. Okay. Now, freedom's a good example. I've always used freedom now, but you overreact again. Yes, the word, there is no such thing really as total freedom. But that's the deal. There's no absolute anything. I've decided I don't think it means the word is useless. It says it means we have to reinterpret the word. Okay. Take, for example, smooth or flat. No, you know, something cannot be perfectly smooth. Something cannot be perfectly smooth. Because if you look at a close enough level, you'll see irregularities. Because, for one thing, if you look with the tunneling microscope, you'll see the atoms as little BBs. It'll be a bumpy, you know, thing made out of little balls. It's not smooth, or it's not flat. Um, but So the word freedom is like that. You know, nothing is absolutely, but things can be more smooth and more flat, or less smooth and less flat, right? Things can be, you know, relatively smoother, or less smooth. Um, and that's how it is with freedom. So it's not a useless word. It's not like it doesn't mean anything. It's a direction. It's an asymptotic limit. It's a limit you can't meet. I might have got that wrong. That asymptotic, is that what that? I think that's how that's used. Um, yeah, and let's see. The vocabulary was not written, by the way. I mean, I just want to point out. I know you didn't mean that literally, but just as a side note, it's important to always emphasize that language has evolved. Words have evolved. Vocabulary have evolved as behavior. Just like the ability, you know, techniques of holding a baby that humans will have in common. Some are, just personality. Some are based on kind of built-in responses. Um, so, a behavior like that happens for physical reasons that evolves. Well, words have evolved in the cultural context for as behavior because saying the word got the result the person wanted, or not necessarily wanted, but the result that aided survival, of course. Okay. So, yeah, freedom means something. The random and spontaneous. Now, not only do those mean something, spontaneous, if that's supposed to mean out of nothing, well, that's all really a semantic issue. Because nothing is out of nothing. There's always conservation of energy or something. And so, if particles, for example, spontaneously shoot into reality, it's not spontaneous. It's coming from a nearby dimension, or there's a latent potential energy there. Yeah, nothing's spontaneous in the sense that the uncaused cause that I'll talk about later. Looks like it's going to be 2 videos. But oh, your thing about random. You say we know it's there, there's no such thing as random. We know it scientifically now. We know it scientifically now. That's what you say. What the fuck? Most every physicist on Earth doesn't think that at the moment. You know, just how can you say we know that science? We scientifically know that, and every scientist practically, the ones that do agree with you have weird theories of their own. From what I've read, in scientific, you know, literature about science, um, the the hidden variable theories that it all is determined, but there's something we just don't see. The tiny tweezer idea, or any of those versions, most of them either have turned out incoherent, they contradict themselves, or they don't match up with the quantum mechanical phenomena that they'd like to explain. But then the ones that still sort of could be true involve things like, I always forget what it is, TOE or whatever, or TOW, theory of waves or something. I don't know, somebody can put it in the comment if they remember. But anyway, this thing relies on basically some sort of a waveform traveling back in time. That's supposed to be better than having randomness. That's better than the terrible, terrible conclusion that when you roll dice, it really is random and the dice game really is rigged. I mean, what's so terrible about that? So that's a problem with that. Okay, I'm gonna start a next video and with this quantum mechanics business.